so we did the surgery. It went well. They basically cut out a lymph node right on my right clavicle, the one that I had noticed, right? And they sent it to a lab in Jacksonville for testing. And he was like, "We'll get back to you with the results." Obviously, as a surgeon, he was not able to tell one way or the other if it was a cancerous tumor or a benign
Yeah.
thing or I went back home, my neck kind of was sore. I always joked with my friends and family that that surgery was a real pain in the neck. That's what I told them.
He
And
has a sense of humor.
well, and that's kind of my whole thing. How to process everything and get through
Yeah.
everything. But again, at this time, I still was not confirmed. So I thought that, and I Googled these sorts of things that, oh, if a lab gets a sample that was obviously cancerous, or they could just tell, because those labs are experts in what they do, that they would call the doctor immediately, like sooner than later. So after like 3 days goes by, I thought like, okay, I'm probably in the clear. They probably looked at it, didn't think much of it, put me towards the back of the line, and then they would just confirm. But about a week later, I woke up to a phone call from a restricted number or something at like 6:55 in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I answered the call because I figured it probably wasn't a spam call. It's probably something important. It was a surgeon, and he said, "I hate doing this. I wish I didn't have to do this, but he's like, I wanted to call you because I just got the results back this morning, and it is lymphoma."
Where were you in New Jersey when you found out?
So I was with two of my cousins. We went to the Rockaway Township Mall by like a family lake house we have. Pretty short drive away. So we went out. It was in December. It was during the week of Hanukkah. I don't quite think it was Christmas yet. I was in one of the stores at the mall when my oncologist texted me the just really nice message and image just saying it's gone.
I can't even imagine. How did you feel?
Oh, I mean, the emotions were but it was just like a huge relief. It was a big weight off my shoulders, I would say.
Yeah.
And we were all staying at the lake house nearby, and I had forwarded everybody the good news, but it was a really beautiful moment, I think. And also, I was going to show you. I don't know if this is what when I saw my oncologist, this is what she gave me, which is the Purple Heart Award. Says that Chase Malone has successfully completed chemotherapy. My last one was on December 5th, 2019.
Oh my goodness.
So I like at work and things like that, I'd always have it on my desk, and it was just a huge motivating thing for me.
I bet it was. The moment you found out that you did have cancer and your doctor texted you early in the morning, and my question was, what happens when you hear that or when you see it?
Yeah, the surgeon called me first thing in the morning, and like I said, I had a few weeks before I started work, so I was just kind of getting all the rest I needed, before I started a full-time job and everything. But I got that call in the morning, and he just conveyed that. He prefaced it with, "I hate doing like this is like one of the things I just
How you doing?
don't enjoy doing," but he's like, "I need to tell you." And he said that it's classical Hodgkin's lymphoma, nodular sclerosis subtype. If somebody says, "Oh, I have lymphoma," well, there's countless types and subtypes of those types. So
My goodness.
he gave me the full rundown, and at the time, I mean, it was just surreal. I didn't really know what to think of it. He is just the surgeon giving me the news about the biopsy. He did not have he did not give me a prognosis or anything like that. I told my mom and my dad because I was staying at their place at the time. It was like emotionally like getting hit by a bus, if that makes sense. I mean, just all at once. It was the worst case scenario throughout the whole like leading up to that. It was like, oh well, it might be cancer, but it wasn't solidified until
Yeah.
then. And like I said, generally speaking, I was a healthy young man. I didn't really think that it was that. And that's kind of why I like to do this now, because the thing is trying to catch these things early can make a world of a difference. I could, and I almost did, have just been like, you know what, maybe the urgent care center on the phone, and maybe the initial meeting with the doctor at my primary care was like, maybe they were right, maybe it was just a cyst, and I'll just forget about it, and then a month or two later we'll see if it's still there. But I'm glad I didn't, because early detection, being an advocate for yourself, like getting that scan, I believe saved my life, and that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me a little bit. You mentioned advocacy, and I want to sort of work that into what comes next. So you get the news, and then I imagine comes a fire hose of information, and you're also probably playing doctor on Google and seeing what you can figure out, which is a whole nother, issue. But tell me a little bit about treatment and how you advocated for yourself through that, because we do always hear early detection and advocate, 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 but sometimes it's hard because you're not the expert and the doctor is, and you don't know what to ask, and you feel that you're sort of maybe going up against an authority figure, and it's not your right to do that. It sounds silly, but we do it. We do it all the time. We take somebody's word as gospel, and we don't advocate or ask additional questions. So tell me a little bit about treatment and then you advocating throughout it.
So I think that it was multifaceted in the sense that my career as an investment analyst, we have to scrutinize, and my attention to detail and just due diligence is a requirement in this field. So I obviously did a lot of research, try to gather surface level wise at least as much as I could about it. Then the surgeon, before we got off the call, he said that he knew this fantastic woman who works at Cancer Specialists in North Florida. Shout out Dr. Alicia Sugarman, my hero. He set me up with her before the call even happened. He was like, look, I got you set up. You can meet with her on Monday. I think I got the call on like a Friday morning. And then he was like, on Monday, I got you set up with this fantastic doctor. In the meantime, I was researching and things. When I met with her, I'd never met with her before. I never even considered what it would be like as a young guy to go into an oncologist office, part of this hospital network, that was for people with cancer. It was just totally surreal. It happened very fast, but I knew that I had to get through it because the time is precious and it's critical. And again, I didn't know my prognosis or anything like that or the stage. All I knew is that lump on my clavicle was cancerous, and so I went in. She was fantastic. She is essentially a expert in this field, with this sort of stuff, and she told me I was in good hands. She had excellent bedside manner. We went through basically the steps the next steps that were, all right, how we're going to go about treating this situation. And I was very lucky to have like my mother and father by my side in those appointments and such. I felt assured that she was going to do everything she could to help, and I don't think any doctor will ever promise you anything, especially with something like cancer where the stakes are so high and there's just a lot of unknowns and all that. But I felt like I was in good hands. Yeah. We went over the treatment options. She suggested a form of chemotherapy called ABVD, which is adriamycin, bleomycin, vinblastine, and dacarbazine. We went through the side effects and the risks, potential rewards, basically the pros and cons of that. And then, there was a discussion because in the scans and such I did, there were tumors all throughout my chest area on my right side. There was one that was fairly large, so we discussed the possibility of potentially down the road having to need radiation therapy. Yeah. And even that has its own pros and cons to it as well. I immediately went back to the surgeon that did the biopsy to get my chemotherapy. They call it a portocatheter. Mm-hmm. But the slang is the chemo port. So I had that surgery, shortly thereafter. And then I started treatment, as soon as I physically could. And I was just in it. And it was a lot on me. It was just dropped on you, and it happened very fast. Yeah. And I'm thankful to have a team that was able to give me that treatment quickly. Because I think every moment counts, especially when you find out you have tumors, not just... Because I only knew about the one on my clavicle. But I had some like in my armpit area. I had one behind my my right pec muscle that was rather large, and then a bunch of other ones of various sizes throughout my neck. They call it like head and neck area, and then all throughout my abdomen, and it was scary stuff.
I can't imagine what that was like, hearing that and realizing that perhaps it's bigger than you thought.
Yeah, I remember I had one phone call with, she was I think a PA or a nurse, and she was going over like my preliminary scans
Mhm.
going into treatment. And I'll just put it this way: it's not that she did anything, but she was transparent about like this is a serious situation. And meanwhile, I was supposed to be starting my job
Yeah.
in the coming days to a week or two after that. So it was just all at once,
Yeah.
just overwhelming in a way.
I'm sure that it was.